Hello year threes, this is Miss Rebella here for your English Summer Catch-Up School. Today is Thursday and we are going to carry on doing the retell of Desmond and the Very Mean Wood. Today we're going to be focusing on the emotions. So our hello for today is to describe the emotions involved in the story. Our success criteria is going to carry on being to use the key vocabulary, the two-way sentences, figurative language, and to check and edit our sentences. But before we move on, here's our 2-minute edit of the day. 2 minutes, 2 sentences, and we're going to focus on figurative language, the similes. So if you remember similes are a feature of figurative language that help you describe something using the words like or as. So you're making comparisons with something else that helps paint a picture in your reader's mind. As strong as a ox, as brave as a lion, as fast as, well, we're going to see about that. So I have 2 sentences over here. Let me show you one. Desmond was happy. Wow, what a sentence. This is so dull. This is so unappealing. There's nothing to it. It is a sentence. It makes sense. But if I'm reading this in the book, I'll probably close the book and go back home. Desmond was happy. I want it to be a simile. What do I need for it to be a simile? Right, I'm missing the words like or as. Now remember, we can start our sentence with like a something comma, Desmond was so happy. Or we can say Desmond was happy like a. Now what can we compare happy to? Desmond was happy as... Now you tell me, how happy were you? As happy as... I'll go with Desmond was happy as a child on Christmas Eve. We are all happy on Christmas Eve because presents are coming our way. There you go. Now this is a lot more interesting, far more interesting sentence because it became a simile. He was, oh, hold on, we need to read and edit it. Desmond was as happy as a child on Christmas Eve. There you go. Thanks for pointing that out. Now this is a simile. Let's have a look at the other simile and see what we can do about it. Oh, the bike was fast. Oh dear. This is really dull again. Now, come up with some ideas of how can you describe how fast it is. The bike was fast. Like a... It can be as fast or like a thunderstorm. Like the waves on the sea. Or like the wind from the east. I'm going to say that because I think it looks nice. The bike was fast like the wind from the east. I'm assuming that the wind from the east is very fast. I don't know about that, but it makes it a far more interesting sentence. Brilliant. Now that you revised your skills in figurative language, and you know we're going to be using this tomorrow in the big write, today we're going to be focusing on both of them. So we revised both of the sentences types and language features that we've been learning about, two ways and figurative language, so we can complete this last paragraph together. To do that, let's revise our key vocabulary. My turn, awaken. Your turn. My turn, emerged. Your turn. My turn, terracotta. Your turn. My turn, delighted. Your turn. My turn, contentment. Your turn. And my turn, terror. Your turn. My turn, pounded. Your turn. My turn, poured. Your turn. Now, which of these words means to hit consistently? Hit again and again and again and again. Brilliant. Pounded. His heart pounded inside his chest. Now, which of these words mean means a constant stream of water. Good. Poured. Yeah, so you can pour water out of a jug. You can water is pouring out of a tap, and your tears can pour out of your eyes. So you're crying a lot. And which of these words mean extreme fear? Excellent. Terror. Let's just have a look at the synonyms that we may bring up to our right. Here we have awaken. To stop sleeping, you can use rise and awake as synonyms. Next, we have emerge, to move out and become visible. We can also say emerge, we can use synonyms for emerge, such as come out, appear, and materialize. Terracotta is the type of clay that some houses are built out of, and we are describing the village with terracotta houses. We could also say clay houses, brown houses. Delighted is that feeling of great pleasure, and we're probably not going to be using delighted today, because today we're going to move on to the emotions about Desmond being fearful and sad. But the synonyms for delighted were ecstatic, joyful, thrilled, and overjoyed. And I read lots of good things yesterday on your to-dos when you're describing Desmond. Well done. Contentment. Again, this is the feeling of happiness and satisfaction that you used yesterday. Fulfillment, satisfaction, and happiness are words that you can use to replace contentment. Now, these are the words that we're probably going to bring up today. Terror, the extreme fear. So make note of dread, fright, horror, because all of these synonyms are going to be very useful when you're writing your paragraph. Pounded. So pounded is the feeling of your heart beating inside your chest. There you go. You can also use the beat, the punch, the hit. Could feel his heart hitting inside of his rib cage. Yeah. And poured. Also another interesting word to use today. You could see there was a stream or flow or cascade of tears coming out of his eyes. They all will work. Now let's just revise the figurative language. Figurative language. There you go. So figurative language so far, we have these three aspects of it, but we are focusing on similes. Personification, when you give a non-human thing a human trait by saying a non-human thing can do something that humans can. So dust dancing, wind dancing, or wind singing, things like that. Metaphors is when you say something is something else, when you have a heart cold, a stone cold heart. You don't have a cold heart. A heart is just a muscle, but it gives you the idea that you are of a certain personality. And similes is when you compare something to something else by creating that vivid picture of a feeling or of an action. So you can say as strong as an ox, as brave as a lion. We use the words like or as to describe and compare two different things. Remember the two-way sentence that we've been working so hard on, and you are very good at this now. We use this to create strong images in the reader's mind. So just like with figurative language, we use two adjectives for a noun to make it become more alive. So if you read this, I have, he was a tall, awkward man with an old crumpled jacket. Where is my noun? Man. Where is my adjectives for this? Tall and awkward. I have two and I have a comma. I have a comma right there in between. Also, I have this noun, jacket, and I need two adjectives, old, crumpled, and the comma right there in the middle. You've been working really hard throughout the week, and you created some excellent two-way sentences so far. So today we want to see even more. We are on the third paragraph of our writing. We are here now. So we done describing the setting, describing the character. Now we are describing the emotions of a certain event. We're describing the emotions when he encountered the boys, and we're looking at these. We're looking at this. Let me see if that's. We are looking at feelings such as terror, fear, and actions such as heart pounded and tears poured, Heart pounded inside his chest and tears poured out of his eyes. Here's an example of a two-way sentence that we could use here. Heavy, clear tears poured out of his dark brown eyes as he reached Father Trevor's office. But what's happening here? Today we're writing about this part of the text. We are writing about this. So he is delighted, ecstatic with his new bike, and all of a sudden he turns a corner and bang! What does he see? And what does he feel? And why? Right, so he turns round the corner and he sees this gang of boys. They're playing, but they're right in the middle of the road. They're blocking the road. How do you think that makes him feel? Pretty scared. Yes, terror took over him. Very, very frightened. Fearful. But why? Why is he scared of this gang of boys? What do you think they might do? Remember in the text, in the book, it says, what if they try to take my bike? That's a sentence we could bring over and we should use. He goes from one feeling to another. So he's scared, he doesn't know what might happen, and then something happens. What is happening here? What is this boy doing? There was one boy. What did they do? They shouted a very mean word. What did the other boys do? They laughed. Oh no, that's so mean. And how did it make Desmond feel? He was feeling scared. Now he's really upset, sad, he's heartbroken. Now, to describe these feelings, the best way, how can we describe these emotions? We are going to be using the figurative language in two-way sentences. Let's have a look at some ideas. At this point, we would use our A3 sheets and work in groups. So, annotate these two pictures. Try and write down as many adjectives you can for both of them. The feelings of fear, the feelings of sadness that we can use. Use the thesauruses and try to find synonyms for those. What phrases, what sentences, what expressions can we use? And I'll give you some ideas too. Right, so if you pause the video to make some notes of your own, let's have a look at what else can I give you. I could give you this. Suddenly, Desmond spotted a gang of boys playing and blocking the road. Now, while this sentence is not a two-way or a figurative language, it's showing you something very important. Is moving the text along with this starter. How did it happen? Suddenly. Suddenly, he spotted a gang of boys, okay? And you need to separate suddenly with a comma from the rest of the sentence. That's a good way of starting your paragraph, I must say. Now, let's focus on some figurative language about this fear that he's feeling over there. How can you describe the fear that he's thinking? You now have a lot of synonyms for fear, fright, scare, horror, terror, the feelings that he's feeling. So you annotated your pictures earlier on, and you have synonyms for that. How can I create a nice sentence to show what this feels like? I have an idea here for you. Use that one, but make sure you create more. Desmond was taken by a wave of terror. So when there's a wave of a feeling that takes you over, so you were taken by a wave of terror, that means that invades your whole being. That means that you're really scared. Now, there was a sentence in the book that I think will fit just brilliantly in this paragraph. He thinks out loud, what if they took his bike? That's the reader thinking out loud for you. What if they took his bike? That's why it's not why if they took my bike, but his bike. Okay, third person. All right, let's leave those notes there for a second and let's have a look at here. Okay, now he was terrified. Then the boys shout a very mean word at him and then he's heartbroken. What sentences can we create to make that clear to the reader? Now again, remember, it will be important that you show that you use connectives and you use sentence starters that are going to show you how things happen. So just the same way that we use suddenly over here, I could start another sentence with how things happen. Straight away, all of a sudden, a tall skinny boy shouted a very mean word. So have a look at how I need to introduce this sentence and link to what's happening from before. Okay, and I'm separating straight away with a comma from the rest of my sentence. And also that this is a two-way sentence. A tall skinny boy, tall skinny, and boy is my noun, shouted a very mean word. That's very sad. What else could we use? We could show what's happening to him as his emotions are turning from fear, from delight earlier on to sadness. His bright smile was replaced by heavy, clear tears. Now remember here, you need to edit your sentence. If you're going to have a to-a sentence, you need to make sure you include the commas between your adjectives. Lovely. Finally, Desmond's heart pounded and his chest ached. Now, if you remember, this is part of the text itself from the reading. Desmond's heart pounded and his chest ached. And I think it's a very good sentence that we could just bring over because it represents very well the emotions that are happening right there and then. Fabulous, Year 3s. Now you're very well equipped to write your third paragraph about the emotions of this part of the text. So we're now talking, this is your third paragraph. We're talking about the emotions. We're talking about Desmond being scared of the gang of boys and then being heartbroken, very sad about what they say. We are looking for you to use more of a key vocabulary. So far you've been writing very well, but I want to see more of your key vocabulary used in sentences, and that you are using your two-way sentences, two adjectives and a noun, and you're using figurative language, especially similes, when you compare things to something else. You're using your key vocabulary, and at the end, you are stopping and you are reading your work carefully so you can check your work. Make sure all of your sentences are starting with your capital letters and ending with full stops. Make sure you're spelling especially your key vocabulary properly, and that you are punctuating your sentences correctly. After this, you're going to be ready for your writer's workshop tomorrow. Looking forward to read your work.